Welcome to Life Unravelled, where we unravel life's little mysteries. Today we're talking about nursery rhymes, and often we overlook nursery rhymes and think they're just silly little things that our grandparents used to sing to our children, or sing to us, but in actual fact they form a big part of education, and they can help our kids with things like mathematics, 5 little ducks, with subtraction. They can help them with listening skills, sitting and learning to listen. They can help us with writing and getting our fine motor movement going. So they form a big part of the education of early childhood years. So let's get into it. Let's find out what nursery rhymes are best for what ages. So we're looking at the different nursery rhymes for the different ages. And what's really interesting is that nursery rhymes help us with our physical development, intellectual development, social development, and emotional. It's really a be-all and end-all for our education, which is really lovely because they're so much fun to sing, and you can learn so many of them in a very short amount of time. When we're looking at pre-literacy skills and also the pre-numeracy skills that each child needs to be able to successfully read and do maths, we find that the nursery rhymes actually cover pretty much all of the skills that we need. Now they all change over time, so what we want to have a look at is how nursery rhymes when we are babies, which nursery rhymes we should be looking at when they're crawlers and walkers, and which nursery rhymes we should be looking at when they're runners and preschoolers. Because as their skills develop, we want the nursery rhymes to also get a little bit more complex, so it really stretches those kids' brains. Now what I've done is I've broken down these nursery rhymes into different types of nursery rhymes so that it's just a little bit easier for you. So let's start going through the babies. So nursery rhymes for babies really are simple nursery rhymes. They're often about animals like Baa Baa Black Sheep and Mary Had a Little Lamb. They're normally only about 1 verse long, and lullabies are just beautiful to sing to your baby. I used to sing The Lion Sleeps Tonight to one of mine. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. It was one of those songs that we always sang, and she was so relaxed whenever I started singing the song. Some of the other nursery rhymes for babies are another one. Round and round the mulberry bush like a teddy bear. 1 step, 2 step, tickly under there. That's a favourite of mine. I think it's great to do that while you're changing nappies. This little pig went to market. This little pig stayed home. This little pig had roast beef and this little pig had none. And this little pig went wee 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 all the way home. I can even remember my grandmother doing that to me. There's 5 little ducks went out one day over the hills and far away. Mother duck said quack, 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 but only 4 little ducks came back. And that's actually teaching subtraction. You can start that right from when they're tiny, tiny, tiny babies. So the next stage is when they're crawlers. I love this one. Open, shut them, give a little clap. Open, shut them, lay them in your lap. Creep them, creep them, creep them, creep them, right up to your chin. Open up your little mouth, but do not let them in. And the kids giggle and giggle and giggle. It's so much fun. Or maybe Incy Wincy Spider. So you get your hands like this and turn one upside down. Incy Wincy Spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sunshine and dried up all the rain. So Incy Wincy Spider climbed up the spout again. I think these are really great to learn, and they're really quick and easy tunes to keep going. And it doesn't matter if you're out of tune, just as long as you keep singing and you've got that rhythm going. So you can see how all these nursery rhymes have been helping the kids with their education, with their literacy, with their math skills. Now if we look at for runners and preschoolers, we're looking at more complex tunes, and often it involves role playing and finger play and much more complex moves. For instance, Punchinello, we're jumping up and down, or we're skipping around for Looby Loo. A sailor went to CCC. We've got actions that go with the words that we're looking at. And we still have those lullabies. Those lullabies are so important to relax the children. It's sort of like a meditation. So I'll go through some of these because some of them you may or may not know what they are. What can you do, Punchinello, little fellow? What can you do, Punchinello, little man? And then you get the child to do something. Oh, we can do it too, Punchinello, little fellow. We can do it too, Punchinello, little man. What can you do, Punchinello, little fellow? What can you do, Punchinello, little man? We can do it too, Punchinello, little fellow. We can do it too, Punchinello, little man. Now this actually is a really great way of the song telling your child what to do. We'll go through that in the Are We a Four yet, but it's a really nice way of not us telling the kids to say clean your teeth. You can start by singing the song. Oh, what can we do, Punchinello, little fellow? What can we do, Punchinello, little man? Let's go clean our teeth. Oh, we can do it too, Punchinello, little fellow. We can do it too, Punchinello, little man. Let's show Punchinello how we can clean our teeth. And off you go and clean your teeth. And it's so nice to have that way of actually being able to get our kids to do things without us having to tell them, and that power play that happens all the time. So nursery rhymes have a huge number of applications in our lives. So the question is, why are we singing all these nursery rhymes to our kids, and how can it actually help us with, or help them with their education? Well, nursery rhymes help with auditory memory, auditory discrimination. It builds attention span, their oral attention span. It helps with phonic awareness and knowledge, and it teaches kids how to sit in one spot. Now, how can it do all of that? Well, let's actually go through one by one what each of them means, because often it's really difficult to understand some of these terminologies that they use in education. So let's look at auditory memory. Auditory is the ear and what you hear. So it's memorizing what you actually hear. There are quite a few different things that you can do with auditory memory to help kids. Singing nursery rhymes is one way because they're actually listening to the nursery rhyme and learning the words. Another thing is using simple words and using everyday language. So all of the nursery rhymes use these simple words and everyday language, and they have simple tunes. So it's easy for kids to listen and learn. And each song that they sing, and the more songs that they have under their belt, the better their auditory memory is. And that means that when they're sitting and listening at school, they can actually remember what the teacher's saying. And it's important to be able to do that, because if you're actually looking at how well children do, those children that can listen and do what they're told get much better results than children who are distracted all the time and running around all over the place. Now, auditory discrimination is something that's a little bit different. It's how we hear the sounds. And often children, when they're growing and their mouths are developing and their brains are developing, they can't quite get across all of the sounds that you hear. I know my daughter used to say, we went to Minato Zoo, and she used to say tomato the zoo, because she just couldn't, she got the M and the T mixed up all the time. And some children have difficulty being able to sound out different letters. Now, speech therapists can help you with that, and sometimes it's a good idea to get into speech therapy quite early if you know that there seems to be a problem happening. But auditory discrimination is primarily hearing the sounds, like you can distinguish a p rather than a b, or a t rather than a th. It also sounds like an a, e, those sorts of things. You wouldn't think that they're too important, but actually with reading, they are very, very, very important. Now, oral attention span means that how long you can actually listen to someone without tuning out. Now, that can be anywhere from 10 seconds for some people, all the way up to people can sit for 2 or 3 hours listening to people and listening to talkers and really understand what they're saying and get involved with everything. So how can we increase this with our kids? You could give instructions with more than one step. So you start with one step, then you add 2 steps, then you add 3 steps, and just slowly build up their ability to be able to keep adding more steps and having a bigger attention span. You could sing longer songs. For instance, there are, we've spoken about nursery rhymes. Well, you can actually start singing some of the songs that are on the radio and learning all the verses for the songs. And you'll find that the kids at quite a young age can actually do those things. Listening to audiobooks is a favourite of mine. We do it in the car often, especially on long trips. We actually listen to the book. Now, listening to a book is very different to reading a book. And the difference between these two is primarily your oral attention span. So you will increase your oral attention span by listening to these audiobooks. Now, you can get audiobooks of the BFG and Roald Dahl. You can get audiobooks. I know my daughter loved listening to Anne of Green Gables from quite a young age. She was about 7, and she loved listening to Anne of Green Gables. So you don't have to listen to brand new books, although there are heaps of, Dr. Seuss put out a whole heap of apps and audiobooks for some of his books. So the sky's the limit. So get in there, enjoy, and do as much as you can. Because what this does is this builds up your phonetic knowledge and your grammar. So children that listen to audiobooks and listen to songs and keep hearing the talking that happens around the house, they start to pick up what is correct grammar, what is a correct sentence. Have I said that sentence correctly? And it's important that you pick up on that and teach the kids that this is the way that we put English together. One of the things that I hate the most is when people use baby talk to babies, because from the time that they can hear in utero, they are accessing information and they are learning how our language is spoken, and they're learning what vocab we can use, and they're learning so many things about our lives. So it's really important when you speak to babies and children that you speak in a very articulate, clear way that uses proper grammar and proper sentences, and that way they will learn from a very young age how English is put together. Well, thanks so much for listening to us today. These nursery rhymes are one of the most important things that you can do for your children. It's one of the easiest things you can do as well. It brings a lot of joy to your life, but it also teaches them so much. So get in there. I've made up a list of nursery rhymes which I love. You can always go to the Australian Breastfeeding Association, who has a book called Merrily Merrily. It's one of my favourite books as far as resources are concerned for little children, and it has all these songs in it. It has you can get it just with the words. You can get CDs that come with it. So it's a great resource to have at home. So that's on the Australian Breastfeeding website. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time at Life Unravelled.